Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is kind of a update video and just a video that I really felt called to make because I feel like so many people who have followed me on this channel have been following my journey for a few years now, and there's been a few updates since the last time I really spoke about the situation. So I thought that I would make a video just sharing about my current perspectives on Islam and religion and all of that, because I feel like this whole saga kind of started around like 2016, 2017, where I had this thing with my family and like a falling out and just a disagreement of certain things. And that led me into kind of moving into this like headspace of being really rebellious towards the traditions and culture and like religion that I grew up under, because I felt at the time that the rules of the religion, they were presented to me as in a way where I didn't really fully understand them, and I also wasn't old enough to understand how to do the research myself. And so it kind of created this like situation where I was just really angry at my life situation and at what was happening, and it led me into, I feel like I channeled a lot of that anger and resentment into the religion and culture in a way that I feel like was a little bit immature, like coming like I guess it's like 5 or 6 years later. I don't think I would repeat. I don't think I would do the same things that I did when I was younger, but at the same time, like I've learned so much, and I also don't fully regret everything as it happened, because now it's kind of led me here. But the whole reason I'm making this video in the first place is because Garett and I have actually decided to get a Nikkah. And for those that don't know what that is, a Nikkah ceremony is an Islamic marriage ceremony. And in order to do a Nikkah, that means that Garett has to convert to Islam in order to like do it, right? And for many, many years, this was kind of like my parents and my family's main condition when it came to them accepting the relationship between Garett and I. And for many years, Garett and I didn't want to do that or didn't want to comply with that, because it felt like if we did do it, we were doing it on and everyone else's terms and not our own. And so we kind of were like, we don't want to do it, because at the time I was also still like really angry at everything in the situation and how things were and how reality was. But at the same time, like Garett and I, for the past few years, didn't really have, like, we wanted to get married on our own terms. We wanted to get married on our own timeline. So long story short, in January, when Garett and I were in Costa Rica, we got engaged. And since then, we started thinking about this potential of, sure, we're gonna get a regular legal marriage, but perhaps this is a great opportunity to mend and harmonize our relationship with my family and my parents. And we had conversations about doing the Islamic ceremony and what that would entail. And I spoke to Garett about whether that would be something he'd be interested in or / open to doing. And everything just kind of effortlessly started falling into place. And I spoke to my mom about it, and they were really open, or my mom was really open, and then she spoke to my dad, and my dad was really open as well. Luckily, like if we did it in the way that is like lawful within Islam, that my family would be open and accepting to our marriage. So it kind of just, like as the months went on, it kind of just started feeling like a win-win for everyone. And hold on, I'm just gonna close the window. Okay, someone was just mowing their lawn, or starting to mow, and I didn't want it to affect the video. So we basically just started opening up to the possibility. And in that exploration or opening up, it actually inspired me to kind of revisit Islam, you know, and kind of re-explore it in a way, because for so long, like after that initial like severance between me and my family, I just kind of like, I was initially mad, and I made some videos talking about how I didn't consider myself a Muslim anymore and all of these things. And one thing that I would like to point out is that I never, from all my videos, I never made any that said anything directly against the religion or said that it was bad or anything. I always, if I ever criticized what was happening to me, I always reflected that it was due to a cultural influence on religious ideas, you know, and it was like the culture that I grew up in that was the main culprit of the disharmony that was being created, and it wasn't actually the religion. So just wanted to make that clear. Like, there was never, I watched some of those videos back and I actually removed some of them because they just feel no longer relevant, but I did watch them back, and I was like, I haven't said anything negative about Islam specifically. It was always just about the culture and stuff. But yeah, so that being said, once I had that kind of exploration and I like shared my ideas and I was like, I'm not Muslim anymore, I kind of like left it on the back burner. I never really thought about it. It never really came up. But now that we're doing the Nikkah ceremony, it's like started to come back up in my field of awareness, and it kind of launched me into this like really exciting exploration of the religion. Because in the last few years, when I wasn't paying attention to that religion, I've always been someone who's very into mysticism and spirituality, and I used a lot of the last few years studying other types of religions and spiritual traditions and all of that. And one thing I noticed is that they all have such common themes, and I feel like I've explored those other ones, and now it kind of feels like a really, really good time to re-explore Islam. And something that I'm starting with is just kind of going back into the Quran and the Islamic texts and relearning the religion from this like clear-minded perspective, without the cultural undertones, without the undertones of like how I grew up or how I was taught it by others who have their own interpretations and things like that. And it's kind of like going straight to the source of the texts myself and understanding it firsthand, you know, and finding like religious thought leaders and things that align with me and how I think and like that resonate with me. So I'm kind of at this place where I'm just like really opening myself up to it again, in a way that I honestly didn't expect before. And something that was interesting is like, I did see a video that I posted in the past where I said, I think it was like a Q&A or something, and I was like, the question was like, do you think you'll ever be Muslim again? And I said no. And I was reflecting on that because I thought it was really funny that where I am now, I don't really agree with that, because if you even just like understand what the word Muslim actually means, it means like somebody who submits unto God, or someone who surrenders to God, or just someone who is like, of course Muslim means someone who follows the religion of Islam, but Muslim also means like as its like core meaning is a human being who submits unto God, or who is following God's will. And it's funny because not funny, but you know what I mean, it's like interesting because even before opening up to like doing Nikkah and like opening up to Islam again in this way, I had been like, a lot of my friends who are from different religious backgrounds, like some are from the Christian tradition, some are from the Jewish tradition, some didn't have any religion, like all of us as a community have been opening ourselves up to the idea of God as a concept, and just the concept of like God's plan and faith, and all of these themes have been already interwoven into my life. So this theme of like the main one being like this faith in God's plan, and a separation or acknowledgement that oftentimes as human beings we find ourselves in situations where our ego has a plan. So our ego, which is our character of who we are, and like me as a Reed and me as an individual, like our ego has its plan and its visions, and then there's like the greater vision, which is God's plan and God's vision. And how I interpret that is that as our ego, as our individual self, we only have a limited visibility of what is happening in reality. Like when we make decisions, we don't have the full picture. Like we don't know everything, right? Because we see like this much of reality through our senses and through what information comes to us. But God, however you want to conceptualize God, but the way that I really like to conceptualize God these days is just that force that harmonizes everything together. This entity or force, this like, it's like nature is part of it, but just what is that force that prevents reality from like completely falling into chaos? Like what is that harmonizing force that brings things in like into existence, you know, like why are human beings so intricately designed, and what is the force that's keeping us running and alive, and what is the force behind nature, and how is nature so intricate and beautiful, and what is the force basically that is holding all of this stuff together? Because we also see so much chaos in our reality, right? And like for me, the question that always I come back to when I'm contemplating God and the existence of God is, if there was no harmonizing force, if there was no God, then wouldn't everything just be in chaos? Like why would things even exist? So as that contemplation, so there's that force, right? There's God, and that force has more visibility, so to speak, than humans do. So when we're walking in our life and things don't go in the way that our ego planned, it's easier when you think like that to fall back in faith on God's plan, because you just trust that everything's still working out. But maybe we as the human don't really fully see how it's working out, but God sees it, and God is the orchestrator of it. So that's like where I'm at. So anyway, going back to the initial point, it's like the definition of the word Muslim is somebody who submits unto God, and I've always been that, and I am still that. You know, I'm still someone who, well, more so now than maybe the past few years, but definitely now, like I'm definitely someone who has a lot of faith in God's plan, and I'm willing to like talk about that. And another piece that I wanted to talk about that I'm really excited, because something that I'm working on, I think it's gonna be like a substack, which is kind of like a writing newsletter space. It's gonna be like a written exploration. So I think that I really am curious about is the role of the feminine principle in Islam. So the role of women, and so in like other religions, like, okay, so we'll talk about it in the concept of like the Eastern religions, yin and yang. You know, yin, like this is the, you know, the symbol, the yin and yang symbol. So yin is the feminine principle. It's like the feminine energy that goes in to create. And then there's yang, which is a masculine. So every spiritual tradition and religion has their own explorations and understandings of the role of the feminine and the role of the masculine. And I've explored this concept in other religions and traditions and stuff, but I've never really explored it in Islam. And I found it especially intriguing because I feel like in Islam, there's so much misunderstanding of the role of the feminine. And especially in the modern day, I feel like so much of the religion has, like, for lack of a better term, has been hijacked by certain agendas and things like that, that have created a lot of confusion in what the religion's about. And I really just want to explore, like, according to the original texts and like as close to the source material as possible, what is the role of the feminine in Islam. And I already know that there's so many rights that are granted to women in Islam that weren't granted to other women and other populations at the time. Like, for example, the right to own land or own property, something like that. Like, that is already encoded into Islam. Like, in Islam, women have had access to inheritances for as long as the religion has existed. And just things like that. Like, I want to explore it further and write about it. And the first step that I'm taking is I'm reading this book called My Soul as a Woman, The Feminine in Islam. It's about, it's written by a German researcher and professor, but something that's good is that she gives a lot of references to other texts and things that I feel like this has just been a really good starting point. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm really excited for this next chapter of my life because it feels really good to understand a religion as it's meant to be, because I see all religions, and especially Islam, it's kind of like, I used to hate the rules and stuff because I didn't understand them, but as I get older and as I mature, I'm beginning to actually see the benefits of the rules, like many of the rules that, I mean, I haven't like literally, I can't really list all the rules right now and be like, yes, I agree, yes, I agree, yes, I agree, but a lot of the rules, I understand the benefit to it and why, if the follower of Islam abides by those rules, how it could create a more harmonious life experience. Like, I totally understand that, and I see that so well now. And I feel like now for me, it's just about slowly like reintegrating. It's not gonna be like an overnight transition for me, but I feel like I wanted to make this video anyway because there is a part of me that's opening up to the traditions that my ancestry comes from, and I trust that there is a reason that I was born into this specific tradition. And I'm curious about that because I've explored so many spiritual traditions and religions now, and because I have so much faith in God in general, it's like I trust that there's a reason that I was born into this specific tradition, and that there's certain things in this religion that I am meant to explore, and I am meant to talk about, and I'm meant to write about from my perspective. So yeah, I think I've covered everything. I think another reason that I wanted to make this video was that I feel like there might be people who are watching me and Garett have a Nikkah and stuff and are a little like suspicious of the intentions behind it. But for those of people, I just want you to know that religion, something that I still believe is that religion and spirituality is such a personal journey, and that it is not right to judge anyone else's path or how other people are exploring religion and exploring the relationship to God. Like, things happen in the way that they're supposed to happen. Like, God is always behind everything, including everything that happened with me. Like, it's not like I did everything outside of God's influence, right? So it's interesting. It's interesting to see how everything is going to move forward from it. This is like a huge transition back for me to like re-merge with my family and reintegrate with the religion and the influence of the religion, and then also learn about the religion firsthand through my own personal research and exploration in a way that I wasn't able to growing up. Because your parents, and it's no one's fault, like, this is just, it makes sense. This is just how it kind of, like, when you're taught a religion or spiritual tradition from family, oftentimes it could be like a broken telephone where information has passed from, it's like it starts at the source, which is the texts, and then over time and over the generations, it's kind of like broken telephone, and like the messaging is kind of, it changes. So I'm excited to have all of that knowledge, like understand how the religion was taught to me, but also now moving forward, be able to like do my own research and conduct my own research and kind of explore it from my current perspectives, and with all the experience that I have, and with all the experience that I have understanding other religions, and you know, it's just really, really exciting. And I will probably make videos on it. I definitely want to write about it because I feel like the writing format is going to be useful within this context, because then I could bring in like direct quotes and stuff. But I'm sure I'll make videos on it and stuff too. But yeah, that's it. I'm so curious to hear your reflections or your response, if any of you were like really surprised by this progression. Honestly, I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to maturity. It's just this understanding that there's truth in everything and there's goodness in everything, and I'm ready to explore Islam in a way that is not so clouded by pressure and expectation, and I can explore it in a way where I already have my own personal relationship with God, and now it's just about understanding why the rules of this specific religion are as they are. And something else I want to add is that over my spiritual explorations, like something that I'm really into is the energetics of things. And if you've been following me the past few years, I'm always talking about the energetics of like the energy body. And something that I really want to do is link up my knowledge of like the energy body and the energetics of human beings and this reality, and link it up with the rules in Islam, because I find that some of the rules that some people don't even know why those rules are a thing. Like for example, something that comes to top of my mind is like in Islam, men aren't allowed to wear gold jewelry. If I try to Google that, there's not that much explanation on why that rule exists. It's just like, this rule exists, just follow it. But from my understanding of like energetics, my theory is that men, because of the way that they are, like their system, their human body and the energetics and the magnetic fields and all of this, like their aura, whatever words you want to use, I feel like that metal, that specific earth metal, it affects the way that like it interacts with their system in a way that may not be fully beneficial for them. And you know, just things like that. Like I kind of want to explore Islam in that way too, where I can link up some of these energetic understandings of reality with like religious rules, and therefore understand the rules better and why they are as they are. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And you'll probably hear from me more soon. But although I am in kind of less of a social media mood, I haven't really been on Instagram or YouTube or anything that much, but we'll see. I'm just not stressing about it anymore. But yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Mwah.